After I found out I was the villain's sidekick in a trashy romance novel, I went straight for the hero's fiancée. The next morning, the hero showed up at my door, furious. I cut him off before he could start. Chloe isn't married to you yet. Who she's with is her choice. Why don't you have any respect for her? The heroine was even more direct, slapping him across the face. You're that obsessed with the first time? Your mindset is ridiculously archaic. The hero, secretly in control of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, just took the verbal assault from both of us. He clenched his jaw and chose to endure it, not saying a single word. It wasn't until he finally reached his breaking point that he used his power to bankrupt my company. Faced with mountains of debt, I wasn't worried at all. Because once I was bankrupt, I'd be a broke scholarship student. And not only that, after graduation, I was going to become the hero's personal assistant at his own company. One I am Caleb Vance, the story's designated villain. According to the pre-written script, I'm supposed to provoke the hero relentlessly while chasing the heroine, Chloe Bennett, only to be crushed by him when he finally reveals he's been a wolf in sheep's clothing the whole time. But this is a cliché-ridden novel. Until the grand finale, the hero is a total doormat, programmed to just take it. Anyone can kick him around. Since I'm doomed to lose either way, I might as well kick as hard as I can. So, I pulled out my phone and called the hero's fiancée. Hey, Chloe, I said casually, want to get out and breathe a little. I heard Aura got a new mixologist who's supposed to be incredible. In the original story, Chloe and I were childhood best friends, the kind of close where we shared everything. Even after she married the hero, she spent more time with me, her guy best friend, than her actual husband. It wasn't until the hero couldn't stand it anymore that he finally had me ruined, which is how he supposedly won back her love. So, as I expected, there was almost no hesitation on her end. Sure, give me half an hour. 30 minutes later, Chloe slid into the most secluded booth at Aura. She wore a simple black dress with no accessories. It perfectly outlined the graceful curves of her body. Her skin was flawless, and her face, stunning enough to belong to an A-list celebrity, instantly outshone the entire crowd of wannabes in the bar. She took the cocktail I offered, and a faint blush rose to her cheeks as she took a sip. What's the occasion? I thought Mr. Vance was too busy to see the light of day. Never too busy to worry about you, I said, leaning back with a look of concern. You don't look so great lately. You've got dark circles under your eyes. The work will always be there. You need to find a balance. A flicker of emotion crossed her face. It's true, I haven't relaxed like this in a long time. This whole thing with Ethan has been such a headache. Fueled by the alcohol, Chloe started venting her frustrations about the hero, Ethan. I listened quietly, nodding in all the right places. Just as the mood was getting warmer, Chloe's phone screen lit up, vibrating violently against the table. The caller ID read, Ethan Sterling. Chloe frowned and declined the call, but he was persistent, calling again and again. Her expression shifted from annoyed to irritated, and finally to outright anger. I chose my moment carefully. Chloe, it's getting late. Maybe you should head back. Ethan seems pretty desperate to reach you. Forget him, she scoffed. We agreed we were pulling an all-nighter. We're not leaving until we're good and drunk. She looked at her phone with renewed determination. I'm shutting him up right now. To prove her point, she called him back and put him on speaker. Ethan's anxious voice filled the booth. Chloe, where are you? It's late. Tell me where you are, and I'll come pick you up. Ethan, do I need to report my location and activities to you now? Chloe's tone was glacial. I'm your fiancé. Of course I have a right to know where you are, so I can protect you. Protect me? Or control me? She shot back with a cold laugh. Ethan, I'm an adult. Do I not have the freedom to go out for a drink? That's not what I mean. I'm just worried about you. What if something happens when you're out alone at night? Relax. I'm safer in a bar than I am walking home alone. Chloe cut him off, her glistening eyes meeting mine. Besides, Caleb is with me. I chuckled and leaned toward the phone. Yeah, Ethan, don't worry about it. I'll take good care of Chloe. My voice was the trigger. Ethan exploded. Caleb, why are you with Chloe? Ethan, why are you yelling? Chloe was officially furious now. Caleb and I have been close since we were kids. It's not like you didn't know that. What's the big deal about us getting a drink? Why are you freaking out? I'm hanging up. We can talk about this tomorrow when I'm home. With that, she ended the call, blocked his number, and turned her phone off for good measure. Tossing it into her purse, she held up her empty glass. Okay, he's handled. Tonight, we drink until we drop. Exactly. Don't let irrelevant people ruin a good time, I said with a smile, refilling her glass. After a few more rounds, Chloe's eyes grew hazy, her cheeks a deep crimson. The time was right. I placed my hand over hers. It felt soft and delicate. All right, Chloe, let's call it a night, I said gently. Any more, and you'll have a killer headache tomorrow. I'd hate to see that. Come on, I'll get you to a room to rest. Ugh, my head is spinning a little, she murmured, looking at me through a fog. Okay, whatever you say. She leaned into me, half resisting, half yielding, letting me guide her to the room I had booked hours ago. Once inside, as I made no move to leave, a hint of confusion surfaced in her eyes. Caleb, aren't you going to bed? I put on a troubled expression. Ah, Chloe, I completely forgot to book a room for myself. This was the last one they had. I grabbed a few thin blankets from the closet and spread them on the floor. It's fine. I could just crash here for the night. Chloe's eyes softened with pity as she looked at the flimsy blankets on the hard floor. You can't sleep on that. You have work tomorrow. She hesitated for a moment. Why don't we just share the bed? We can each take a side. I feigned reluctance. I don't know. A man and a woman. Alone. And what if Ethan finds out? The mention of his name was all it took. Chloe's irritation returned full force. She grabbed my arm and pulled me onto the bed. Forget him. We're just friends. Our conscience is clear. Only someone with a twisted mind like Ethan would see something wrong with this. All right, whatever you say, I replied, obediently lying down. But with a man and a woman, alone in a room, fueled by alcohol, it wasn't long before the lines between us started to blur. I tentatively slipped my arm around her waist. She didn't resist. And after that, everything that should and shouldn't have happened did. We didn't stop until the early hours of the morning, when Chloe finally drifted into a deep, exhausted, and satisfied sleep. 2, when I woke up, the sun was already high in the sky. I stretched contentedly, glancing at Chloe, who was still fast asleep beside me. Careful not to wake her, I quietly got dressed, planning to grab some brunch from the hotel restaurant downstairs. But as I pulled open the door, a familiar figure blocked my path. It was the hero himself, Ethan Sterling. He clearly hadn't slept a wink. His eyes were shot with blood. When his gaze fell on the mark on my neck, his face turned green. Of course, his head was even greener. Caleb, he spat my name through clenched teeth. What did you do to Chloe? I furrowed my brow and shot back. Ethan, what's that supposed to mean? Chloe isn't your property. She's not married to you, and who she spent her time with is her own damn business. Can you try, for once, to respect her as a person? My righteous indignation seemed to stun him. He glared, his jaw tight, looking like he wanted to swallow me whole. But after a long, tense moment, he just shoved past me, trying to get into the room. Where's Chloe? I need to see her. Hold on, I said, blocking his way. Chloe's still sleeping. Are you trying to take advantage of her right now? I added, for effect, stay here. I'll go wake her for you. That was the last straw. Ethan's rage finally boiled over. His fists clenched, knuckles white. Caleb, he growled. I'm her fiancée. You're the one who's taking advantage of her. Now get out of my way. The commotion must have woken her, because we heard a frantic rustling from inside the room. A moment later, the door swung fully open. Chloe stood there, her clothes slightly disheveled. The sight seemed to kill whatever hope Ethan had left. Seeing Ethan standing there, head bowed and silent, Chloe felt a flash of guilt. Then, she shot me a furious glare. I quickly stepped forward and took her hand, my voice dripping with remorse. I'm so sorry, Chloe. It's all my fault. I drank too much last night. My display of guilt worked its magic. Chloe's expression softened instantly. She sighed. It's not your fault. I got carried away, too. Watching us console each other right in front of him, holding hands no less, finally broke Ethan's composure. He lunged forward, trying to rip my hand from hers. Chloe, whose fiancé are you? How can you hold hands with another man right in front of me? What am I to you? Startled by his sudden outburst, Chloe reacted instinctively. She raised her hand and slapped him hard across the face. Crack! The sharp sound echoed in the hallway. Ethan Sterling, the secretly powerful head of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, a man whose combat skills were rumored to be on par with special forces, just stood there and took it. Time seemed to freeze. Ethan cradled his reddening cheek, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Chloe, you hit me?" The slap had been impulsive, and Chloe regretted it the second it happened. But hearing the accusation in his tone, that sliver of remorse vanished. "So what if I did?" she said coldly. "Yes, I'm your fiancé, Ethan, but this is a business arrangement. What I do on my own time has nothing to do with you. And another thing, what century are we living in? Why are you so obsessed with a stupid technicality? People with dirty minds see dirt everywhere. I can't stand your self-righteous, patriarchal bullshit." The barrage of accusations left Ethan completely stunned. Even I, the instigator, felt a tiny pang of pity for the guy. I quickly stepped in, gently rubbing Chloe's back. "Chloe, don't be so angry. He's just crazy about you. If he loved me, he'd try to understand me," she retorted. "Ethan, I don't want to see you right now. I'll be home tonight. But for now, get out of my sight. Now," she screamed, "or I swear, I will never speak to you again." Her ultimatum hit him like a physical blow. Ethan's face went pale. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but in the end, his shoulders slumped in defeat. He turned and walked away. I went to the window and watched him stumble out of the hotel. The moment he stepped outside, the sky opened up in a torrential downpour. The president of a massive corporation didn't even have a car waiting. He just started walking, drenched in the rain, occasionally bending over and clutching his stomach. That classic, tortured hero vibe was coming on strong. After sending the hero on his way, I bought Chloe a new outfit and spent some time comforting her before rushing back to my own company. The first thing I did was start liquidating everything and transferring assets. I had no choice. As much of a doormat as the hero was, he was still the hero. He might torture the heroine emotionally, but he was fully capable of crushing a villain like me without breaking a sweat. In my memory of the plot, he doesn't make his move until near the end of the story, leaving my company in ruins and me begging on the street. But I had just fast-forwarded the timeline with the heroine. Seeing how enraged he was, I had a feeling my downfall was coming a lot sooner than scheduled. To avoid his revenge, the only smart move was to cash out and run. But before I left, there was one theory I wanted to test. It's a well-known fact that this genre of novel has 4 horsemen of the apocalypse for the male lead. The childhood guy best friend, the sympathetic poor student, the attentive male assistant, and the unforgettable first love. I'd already burned the guy best friend identity. So, if my company went bankrupt, could I pivot to being the poor student and keep the chaos going? I got right to it. I enrolled in a degree program at a prestigious university, just for the credentials, and then had my company make a massive donation to their financial aid fund. It was a perfect setup to ensure that the moment I went bankrupt, I'd qualify as a student in need. Sure enough, it wasn't long before the hero's multi-billion-dollar sterling group began targeting my company. I was prepared. I declared bankruptcy immediately. Because I surrendered so quickly, Sterling's corporate machine couldn't fully swallow my assets before the collapse. The financial hits I took were manageable, and the bulk of my money had already been moved offshore. I was set for life. On the day of the bankruptcy hearing, I showed up in a cheap suit, a carefully practiced look of despair on my face. The reporter's flashes went off like fireworks as I hurried past. In a quiet corner, unseen by the crowds, the hero, Ethan Sterling, sat in his Rolls-Royce. Watching me walk away, a wry smirk touched his lips. Beside him, his subordinate was probably chanting, "All hail the king." My former assistant, Leo, followed me out. His eyes were red as he looked at my pathetic state. "Mr. Vance, you..." I patted his shoulder and handed him a business card. "I'm fine, Leo. You're young. You'll land on your feet. This is a company run by a friend I know from overseas. I hear the culture is great and they're doing big things. You should give them a shot. I'm heading to campus now." I added, "I have a class to get to." He took the card and watched me sling a backpack over my shoulder and head for the subway station, completely bewildered. His boss was bankrupt, right? So why did he look more carefree now than he ever did when the company was at its peak? And the company on this card, why did it look so familiar? After saying goodbye to Leo, I made my way to New York University. The campus was even more impressive than I'd imagined. I'd intentionally chosen a pair of faded jeans, a plain t-shirt, and a worn-out backpack to perfectly blend in with the student body. I was enjoying the simple pleasures of student life, cheap cafeteria food, reading for pleasure in the library, playing games on my phone during boring lectures when my target appeared. At a university-sponsored finance lecture, following the dean's opening remarks, a guest speaker, an esteemed alumna, appeared at the door. She wore a tailored skirt suit. Her makeup was flawless, and she carried herself with an elegance and authority that was captivating. The way the black stockings hugged her long, straight legs screamed powerhouse. My eyes lit up. That was her, Victoria Sterling, the hero Ethan's older sister and the acting CEO of the Sterling Group. Because the hero loved his wolf in sheep's clothing act and never communicated, his family just assumed he was useless, despite him secretly controlling a corporate empire. The entire Sterling Group's success was almost entirely credited to his sister, Victoria. Of course, it wasn't just Victoria's talent. The company was growing so fast because Ethan was secretly funneling resources into it. But he never said a word. According to the script, he wouldn't reveal the truth until the very end, leaving his family, who had always looked down on him, drowning in regret. Realizing this, I immediately snagged a seat in the front row and participated eagerly. As a former CEO, my understanding of the market was far beyond that of a typical student. Combined with my broke scholarship kid status, the sharp contrast immediately caught Victoria's attention on stage. After the lecture, as the crowd thinned out, Victoria called me over for a private word. I'm impressed. It's rare for a student to have such a deep understanding of this field, she said with genuine admiration. You're sharper than most of the so-called experts at my company. I smiled modestly. You're too kind, Miss Sterling. I just enjoy reading and thinking about these things. It's all just theory. I'm not so sure, she replied, her eyes shining with appreciation. If you're interested, I could sponsor your education. And after you graduate, you could come work for me directly as my assistant. A look of pure joy spread across my face. Really? Thank you so much, Ms. Sterling. This would mean everything to me. Of course, she said with a warm smile. And please, don't be so formal. You can call me Victoria. I didn't miss a beat. When she gave an inch, I took a mile. Then I won't stand on ceremony, Victoria. I promise I won't let you down. As Victorian, I spent more time together. Her fondness for me grew. One day, she pulled up to my rundown apartment building in her car. We're having a small family dinner tonight. You're coming with me, she said, rolling down the window. Her tone left no room for argument. I feigned hesitation. I don't think that's appropriate. I'm just an outsider. Nonsense, she smiled. Those ideas you gave me were brilliant. After the company implemented them, our last quarter's performance broke records. This dinner is to celebrate you. How could the guest of honor not be there? Before I could protest further, she opened her door, walked around, and pulled me into the passenger seat. And so, I found myself on the way to the Sterling family home. The Sterling estate was located in Greenwich, Connecticut, the city's most prestigious and wealthy suburb. The car passed through ornate iron gates and stopped in front of a magnificent European-style mansion. Stepping inside, I was greeted by the sight of glittering crystal chandeliers, polished marble floors, and abstract paintings hanging on the walls. Every detail oozed opulence. Make yourself comfortable. I'm just going to change into something more casual, Victoria said, leaving me in the living room. A maid brought me tea and pastries. I was taking a sip when the front door opened again. A familiar figure walked in. I turned my head. It was the hero, Ethan, whom I hadn't seen in weeks. He tossed his car keys onto a nearby table and loosened his tie, his gaze sweeping nonchalantly across the room. Our eyes met. The moment he saw me, a look of shock crossed his face. It was quickly replaced by a surge of pure fury. Caleb, he snarled, storming towards me. What are you doing here? I'll let you in. I shot to my feet, my face a perfect mask of alarm. Ethan, Victoria brought me. Shut your mouth, he seethed, getting right in my face. Wasn't harassing Chloe enough for you? Now you're going after my sister? You don't have the right to say her name. He lunged forward, reaching for my collar. I took a step back, accidentally tripping over my own feet and crashing to the floor. The teacup in my hand went flying. Crash! The sharp noise brought someone running from upstairs. What was that? What's going on? Victoria rushed down the stairs. She had changed into a comfortable beige loungewear set, her hair down, which softened her powerful demeanor. The scene that greeted her was me, sprawled on the carpet looking terrified, and her brother Ethan, standing over me, his hands still outstretched, his face contorted with rage. Victoria's expression turned to ice. She rushed to my side and helped me up. "Caleb, are you all right?" "Victoria, I'm fine," I stammered, letting her help me to my feet. I glanced at Ethan before quickly looking away, the perfect picture of a bullied victim who is too scared to speak up. "What is the meaning of this?" Victoria demanded, her gaze fixed on her brother. Ethan's forehead vein throbbed with anger. "You've been fooled by him. Vic, this guy is a total scumbag." Victoria's voice was cold. "Oh, then please tell me. How is he a scumbag?" Faced with her direct question, Ethan froze. He looked at her, his mouth opening and closing, a million unsaid things in his eyes. It was his classic, "I can't tell you the truth because I have to suffer in silence" look. After a long pause, all he could manage was, "Vic, you have to trust me. He's not a good person. That's enough." Victoria cut him off, her face etched with disappointment. "Ethan, Caleb is my guest. He's the one who helped our company achieve so much. Do you think I don't know what kind of person he is? You, on the other hand, I saw you threatening him with my own eyes. Is this how you treat my guests?" "Guest? Help the company?" Ethan pointed a trembling finger at me. "Do you even know who he is? He's the one who was obsessed with Chloe." "I don't care who he was." Victoria's voice rose, sharp and commanding. "I only know who he is now, someone I value. And you laid a hand on him, my guest, and knocked him to the ground. You're both the same age. Caleb is helping me run a company, while you do nothing but loaf around all day. Fine, but you can't even manage basic manners. Is this how you were raised, Ethan?" Her accusations made Ethan tremble with rage. "I didn't push him," he yelled. I quickly grabbed Victoria's arm. "He's right, Victoria. He didn't push me. I just tripped and fell." "Don't you dare defend him," Victoria said, first giving me a reassuring look, then stepping towards Ethan and raising her hand. Crack! A resounding slap echoed through the living room. The entire mansion fell silent. Ethan stared at his sister, his hand on his cheek. He looked at the woman who had barely ever raised her voice to him, let alone her hand, his eyes filled with utter disbelief. "Get out, now," Victoria said, pointing to the door, her fury undisguised. "I don't want to see you in this house. Don't come back until you've learned to respect Caleb." Ethan's expression crumbled. He opened his mouth, 1,000 words of hurt and betrayal in his eyes. But in the end, he said nothing. He just turned and left. As his silhouette vanished, Victoria let out a long breath, as if all her strength had left her. She turned to me, her eyes full of guilt. "Caleb, I am so sorry. I apologize on behalf of my immature brother. Are you sure you're not hurt?" I shook my head. "I'm fine, Victoria. But it feels like I caused you a lot of trouble." "This isn't your fault," she said, a hint of exhaustion in her voice. "Ethan, he's always been like this, lazy and aimless. I thought it was just a lack of ambition, but I never realized his temper was this terrible. If only he had half your sense and ability, I wouldn't have to worry so much." I took her hand. "Victoria, Ethan is lucky to have a sister like you, and he doesn't even appreciate it. He'll regret it one day," I said with a gentle smile. "But I'm different. I'll always cherish you." Her eyes welled up. Touched, she pulled me into a hug. "I know, Caleb. I know you're not like them." With Ethan gone, the family dinner naturally became a private one for just the two of us. Perhaps still shaken by the confrontation, Victoria opened a couple of beers. They weren't strong, but it was clear she was a lightweight. After just a few sips, a rosy blush spread across her cheeks. The alcohol unleashed all the emotions she normally kept bottled up. She became playful, almost aggressive, with her newly adopted little brother. It started with pinching my cheeks, but soon she was practically draped all over me. "Victoria, you've had too much to drink. Let me help you to your room," I urged, trying to sober her up, but it only seemed to egg her on. "I'm not drunk," she declared, standing up and planting a foot clad in black silk on my leg. She looked down at me, a dangerous, intoxicating smile on her face. "Tell me, Caleb, do you really dislike me that much? Are you in such a hurry to push me away?" "No, it's just—" Before I could finish, she pounced. I tried to resist, but she was just too much. After a few rounds, I was completely outplayed, and she dragged me back to her room to watch the defeat cutscene all night. After that night, my relationship with Victoria deepened rapidly. She trusted me completely, relied on me, and I officially joined the Sterling Group as the CEO's executive assistant. Ethan Sterling vanished as if he'd never existed. He never returned to the mansion, nor did he show up at the office to cause trouble. Clearly, my identity upgrade from poor student to male assistant had bought me another lifeline. But I soon realized something was wrong. Within a month, the success rate of the projects I was managing began to plummet. A surprise competitor would suddenly appear out of nowhere, a key partner would back out at the last minute, or we'd hit some bizarre, inexplicable roadblock. It didn't take long for me to figure it out. The hero's secret company was pulling the strings. The protective aura of my male assistant identity was wearing off. So, without hesitation, I liquidated the remaining projects under my control, funneled the capital, and wired it all offshore. They were doomed to fail anyway. I might as well save the money. Then, one evening, I knocked on Victoria's office door, my face a mask of frustration and self-blame. "Victoria, I need to apologize," I said, my head bowed. She looked up from her work, surprised. "Apologize? Caleb, what's wrong?" "The projects I've been in charge of have all failed recently, causing significant losses for the company," I said, my voice thick with guilt. "I've done a lot of soul-searching, and I think it's because my foundation is weak. I lack practical experience. All I have are theories, and it's not enough to handle this position. I've let you down." Victoria immediately stood up and walked around her desk. "This isn't your fault," she said softly. "Business is like war. You win some, you lose some. You've already done an amazing job." "No, Victoria." I looked up, my eyes filled with resolve. "I don't want to be a burden to you, and I don't want people gossiping behind your back about nepotism. I've made a decision. I want to go abroad for a while to study. When I have the skills to truly deserve this position, I'll come back and stand by your side, rightfully." Victoria was stunned, her eyes filled with reluctance. "Abroad? Do you have to go? I can hire the best tutors for you here." "Please, Victoria, let me do this," I pleaded, taking her hands. "I've thought this through. I want to grow, to become someone you can truly rely on. Please, let me go." Seeing the determination in my eyes, she finally relented. She sighed and nodded. "All right, if this is what you've chosen, I support you." With her blessing, I was on a plane overseas in no time. As I settled into my seat, I thought back to a familiar face I'd glimpsed at the airport. I smirked. "The hero, just you wait. While I come back with my unforgettable love returned from abroad status, you won't stand a chance." After a year of living it up on my offshore funds, I returned academically accomplished. Victoria met me at the airport herself, her face beaming with joy. She'd even booked the entire top floor of a five-star hotel to throw me a welcome-back party. But as we were enjoying a romantic candlelit dinner, the doors were thrown open. It was Ethan. He was thinner than he'd been a year ago. He clutched a manila folder in his hand, his bloodshot eyes locked on me. "Vic, open your eyes. This is the good assistant, the little brother you trust so much." Ethan slammed the folder onto the table. During his time as your assistant, he used his position to transfer over $10 million of company funds to offshore accounts. This is the proof, every single transaction. He only got close to you for your money. Victoria's brow furrowed as she looked at the dense pages of financial records. But then she looked up at Ethan, her eyes filled with disappointment. "Ethan, have you not had enough of this? Caleb went abroad to become a better assistant for me. A year ago, you were constantly targeting him. Now he's barely back, and you're trying to slander him with these fabricated documents." "Fabricated?" Ethan was shaking with rage, pointing at me. "Vic, wake up. Go check. Check the international banks. See if he wasn't living it up on the Sterling family's money, and only came back because he was running out of cash to scam you again." "I don't need to check." Victoria's voice was sharp and cold. "I trust Caleb. I know what kind of person he is better than you do. All you do, Ethan, is stir up trouble with these pathetic, underhanded schemes. Is that all you're capable of? Underhanded schemes? Pathetic?" Ethan took a deep breath, staring at his sister who refused to believe him. Fine, fine. If you refuse to believe me, refuse to even look at the truth. He pulled a share transfer agreement from his pocket and slapped it on the table. Then I'll bet all the shares I own in my personal holdings. If I'm wrong, every single share goes to Caleb, free and clear. But if I'm right, his gaze bore into Victoria. I want you to admit, out loud, that you were wrong, that you were fooled by this snake the entire time. My heart skipped a beat as I saw the agreement. All his shares. Did that include the shares in his secret, multi-billion-dollar corporation? Realizing the stakes, I immediately adopted the persona of a wrongfully accused victim. Fine, it's a bet. I snatched the pen from Ethan's hand and signed my name with a flourish. Victoria didn't have time to stop me. Seeing the signed agreement and my wounded expression, her anger towards her brother flared. She stood protectively in front of me. Ethan, you've gone too far. I trust Caleb completely, and I will not be investigating him. Since the agreement is signed, you can just give your shares to Caleb. Maybe then you'll learn what it's like to live without money for a change. I've clearly spoiled you rotten. That was the final blow. Ethan's mind completely broke. He never imagined that his grand gesture would not only fail to harm me, but would also cost him his entire fortune. A desperate, bitter smile spread across his face. Vic, you'd rather trust a stranger than your own brother? I wasn't lying. If you won't believe me, then I'll bet my life on it. Before Victoria could react, Ethan spun around and sprinted towards the rooftop terrace. Ethan, what are you doing? Victoria screamed in terror, but it was too late. Before our horrified eyes, Ethan Sterling took a running leap and jumped from the 88th floor. Thump! A dull, heavy sound faintly reached us from below. Victoria ran to the edge and looked down. She saw the small heap on the pavement and collapsed, her face a mask of disbelief. Even I was stunned. How is this possible? The hero is dead. That's not right. I remember the ending. The hero makes a triumphant comeback and destroys everyone. Something was wrong. I frantically searched my memory, tried to recall the plot. The ending. Yes, the hero had that triumphant smirk. No, wait. As if a light bulb went on, I stopped thinking about the ending and focused on the very beginning. I was reborn. Reborn in the moment when... Oh, so that was it. The hero's happy ending only came after he was reborn from a pathetic, tragic death. The moment I became self-aware, the story was already in progress. I never knew this was a rebirth novel, and that this was the hero's first tragic life, the one where he dies miserably. Looking down at the hero, who was now a red smear on the sidewalk, I was ecstatic. I didn't get reborn with him. Did that mean he was reborn into a different timeline? In this timeline, I had one. 7. The wail of ambulance sirens filled the air. Ethan was scraped off the pavement with a shovel and sent directly to the crematorium. After giving our statements to the police, who confirmed from the hotel security footage that it was a suicide, we were released. Victoria stood with swollen eyes, staring blankly at the city skyline. She clearly never imagined Ethan would actually jump. I gently took her cold hand. Victoria, I said, my voice firm, we're going to investigate. She turned to look at me, her expression vacant, not comprehending my words. We're going to investigate what Ethan said. I repeated. We're going to audit all of my offshore accounts and trace every lead he accused me of. Ethan bet his life on this. We can't let him have died for nothing. Victoria finally understood and shook her head vehemently. No, Caleb, we don't have to. I believe you. It's because you believe me that we have to. I interrupted, my tone leaving no room for argument. This isn't just for Ethan. It's for my own integrity. I want to be with you with a clear conscience. At my insistence, she finally agreed. She mobilized the full resources of the Sterling Group, hiring a top-tier international forensics accounting firm to conduct a sweeping investigation of every overseas account I could possibly be linked to before, during, and after my time as her assistant. The result, of course, was that I was completely clean. The money I'd been spending abroad was from my own company's pre-bankruptcy assets. The funds I had transferred from Sterling had not only been untouched, but had actually grown through investments. Faced with irrefutable proof, Victoria's last shred of guilt over Ethan's death morphed into pure disappointment. She turned and held me tight. Caleb, I'm so sorry you had to go through this. From now on, I will never let anyone hurt you or doubt you again. I gently patted her back, comforting her. With the hero dead, I had nothing left to worry about. Soon after, Victoria and I were married. As a member of the Sterling family, I used the very gambling agreement Ethan had signed to begin rebuilding my own corporate empire. The billion-dollar powerhouse Ethan had painstakingly built was quietly renamed within months of his death. Combined with my own offshore assets, I established a transnational business titan. 3 years later, with everything running smoothly, I brought Victoria back to the States for a long-overdue vacation. But as we pushed open the doors to the Sterling mansion, a familiar figure stood in the entryway. It was Chloe Bennett. She had lost some of her youthful ingenue quality, replaced now by the refined grace of a young mother. And in her arms, she held a little boy who looked to be about 3 or 4 years old. The moment she saw me, she froze. Victoria, oblivious, smiled and introduced her. "Caleb, this is Chloe Bennett." She was, well, I guess you could call her Ethan's wife. Her tone was complicated. That fool Ethan got her pregnant before they were even married, and then he just jumped, leaving them both behind. It's such a tragedy. She sighed, about to introduce me to Chloe. But before she could, Chloe walked right up to me. Her eyes were red. Holding her child with one arm, she started pounding on my chest with the other, her voice choked with tears. "Caleb, you bastard. Where the hell have you been all these years?" The little boy in her arms, however, looked at me and reached out, grabbing my shirt collar as if he already knew me. Looking at this child, who bore a striking resemblance to me, and thinking back to Ethan's bizarre behavior during his final bet, a dreadful thought hit me. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pinch on my side. Victoria was standing next to me, a smile on her face that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, Caleb, it seems you have some explaining to do." "Wait, mercy. Honey, I can explain. It's not what you think," I yelped, quickly laying out the whole story. When Chloe heard that I had disappeared because of sudden bankruptcy and had no idea about the child, her emotional storm began to subside, though her eyes still held a deep sense of grievance. Victoria, realizing that Chloe and I were a case of star-crossed lovers torn apart by an arranged marriage, and that she had, in a way, been the other woman, grew pensive. The grip on my side loosened. After a moment of silence, she sighed. "Fine. What's past is past. The child is innocent, and Chloe is family now anyway. You'd better not mistreat either of them in the future." Overwhelmed with gratitude, I pulled Victoria in and kissed her. "Honey, you're the most generous person I know." "Don't worry," I declared. "I promise I'll take good care of you and my sister-in-law." The end.